What is up, Twitch? How are we doing today? Today is all about making grandma's stuffing. Here's the situation. You got Friendsgiving coming up. You got Thanksgiving coming up. I don't care what mandates are out there. People are having people together. You need a dish. You need a knockout recipe. Your boys got you covered. First thing that is probably the most important is the bread. The bread is a very key component to stuffing. So like, I need you focused here because this is the only part of the recipe that I think you could actually screw up. The key to making good bread. Basically, you kind of want like a crouton, but you don't want toast. So the whole idea is I like to get like Italian bread. Just like get a fresh loaf of Italian bread from the store. You want to rip it up, throw it in the oven, but you don't want to cook it, like you don't want to actually cook the bread. You just want it like, honestly, you want it like stale. That's the best way I can describe it to you. And that's exactly why I just tasted it to make sure it's on point. It tastes like shit. You definitely don't want to eat this bread. But I promise you, it is the correct way to handle it. Ask any motherfucking grandma out there. She will tell you this is the key. This is the key to getting it done. The second thing is you need some sausage. You gotta have some sausage. The key ingredient here is the sage. You gotta have sausage with sage. Otherwise, you're just screwing your life up. There's no reason you should ever use anything different. The next key ingredient, onion, celery, chicken broth, obvious salt and pepper, poultry seasoning. Poultry seasoning is a must. Kind of want to be a little bit heavy on the pepper because a little bit extra spice, it goes a long way in this. And then, as per any grandma, any grandma would be very proud of this one. You want butter. But you don't just want butter. See how they got these measurements on there? We don't give a fuck about that. If we're going grandma style, this whole thing goes in there. And that's how you make a good stuffing. The last and most important piece is some good old-fashioned apple pie wine. This one's just for me. This has nothing to do with the recipe itself. Let's get to chopping. First thing is our celery. 3 to 4 sticks is fine. Don't worry so much about the size. You're smart enough to figure it out. We got our onion. There's a lot of techniques to cut an onion. I don't follow any of them. What I'm going to do is just kind of keep it close together as I can. Also, I'm not the prettiest when it comes to like chopping vertically. Like, I don't recommend this strat, but I literally will like hold the onion this way and like come through it here. So literally it's like I basically just cut my hand. Again, I don't really recommend it, but you know, works for me. If you are making this for friends or for, you know, whatever special event, just make sure you didn't leave like, I don't know, half a fucking onion uncooked. That's probably not the best look. We got our beautiful bowl here just filled with onions and celery. That's it. With the whole mother effing stick. Because when we're making grandma's stuffing, there better be some butter. You can't call it grandma's stuffing if you ain't got a whole stick of butter. I'm sorry. That's just not how grandmas cook. You want to put the butter in first. Just let the butter melt a little bit. And then you throw the vegetables in. Our goal is not to cook the vegetables completely, but it's to cook them down, and then we're going to throw our sausage in. So here's the end game. Follow me to the end game here, fellas. Butter in first. Then we go celery, onion. We cook it down, add some salt, add some pepper, add some poultry seasoning. We add our sausage. We got to cook the sausage completely through. Then at that point, we should have the celery and the onions cooked completely through. We add our bread and we add the chicken broth at the same time. Let the bread just soak all that brothy goodness. Let it soak up all the fat from the sausage. Let it soak up all the butter. All that leftover juice, that bread just comes in and says, give me all that, and it just packs it with flavor. Beyond that, you're just adding a little extra seasoning over the top, and you're good to go. So, all right, we're letting our butter do its thing. Let's add some seasoning into our mix here. And again, you want to be generous on pepper. So this whole seasoning is just generous on pepper. Pepper's the way to a stuffing heart. We want pepper and we want butter. All right, and then again, poultry seasoning. Poultry seasoning is a must for stuffing. If you don't know anything about poultry seasoning, look up poultry seasoning, and it'll probably say, like, put this in stuffing. And then, like, nothing else. That's pretty much its job. And at this point, you should have, it should just look like a pool of butter. Your grandma would be so proud if she knew you were cooking in that. Because that, again, that bread is just going to come in there and it's just going to eat up all this flavor, which is so nice. All right, we got our little sausage. We're going in. Remember, the whole goal is every bite should have all the flavor in it. You should have celery, onion, bread, chicken broth, butter, sausage. Every time you grab a fork or you grab a spoon, everything exists on that utensil. That's your goal. So just to give you a small visual, the bottom of this pan is soaked. It is soaked with butter and sausage fat, which is exactly what we want. When we add in our broth, that's going to add even more liquid. And then there comes the bread, baby. There comes the bread. You want to add the bread first, and then you add the broth, because you want the broth to go on top of the bread. So all our bread goes in there, and then with the broth, you want to use a hell of a lot of this, but obviously you don't want to turn this into soup. Everybody hates the word. You want it to be moist. Make sure your stuffing is moist. I'm going to use about half of this, and then I'm going to mix it up, and then I'm going to add some more, and then I'm going to let it soak. You got to give the bread a chance to start soaking. Give the bread a chance to do its job. Because if you're probably look at it at first, you'd be like, the bread ain't soaking anything up. Patience. Patience, young one. Patience. Don't jump the gun. It's going to be all right. So it should look, maybe you can't really see it that very well. Let me see if I knock this out, if it's a little better. So you got your onions, you got a little bit of sausage, a little bit of the bread. It's all soaking it all up. It's just beautiful and delicious. That's a fucking knockout. This is what some homemade stuffing looks like. With your fresh bread, you got your veggies in there, you got your sausage in there. And then if you look at the consistency and the texture, let's say, and just look at that. I'm going to try a little bit. Money. You get the pepper, you get the butter, get that little bit of crunch with the celery and the onion, which is exactly what you want. A little bit of that broth, soaking it all up. And that bread, so the bread, when it started, you thought it was crunchy, you thought it was like useless. All of a sudden, when it soaks up all that flavor, it turns so soft. It's almost like eating butter in some regards. Like the butter itself is just so soft. And there you have it. That's how you knock out your Friendsgiving, your Thanksgiving. You're like, I don't know, when else do people make stuffing? Why don't people make more stuffing?